Of the news brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Labor Minister, the Honorable Shane Gibson, is rebuking management of the Melia-Nassau Beach Resort and principals of Bahamar for what he calls a union-busting tactic. This after the resort informed employees in a letter it would discontinue the long-time arrangement of deducting union dues. Now that will take effect August 31st and leave the Bahamas Hotel Catering and Allied Workers Union with the responsibility for collection. Now Gibson says he was also told that security staff have been instructed not to allow union officials onto the property. Now Gibson, who frowned on the move, urged the resort to operate in good faith.
Very concerning to us from the Ministry of Labor's point of view, simply because that union has been in existence for many, many years. It's had recognition of that property for many years. And it really concerns us that management at this stage in the Bahamas and the history of the Bahamas would seek to disenfranchise employees of Bahama, particularly when you look at how Sarkis's Million has been over the radio over the past couple of months, talking about how you care about the employees.
Now, the Labor Minister highlighted ongoing tensions between Bahamar developer Sarkis's Merlion and the government, suggesting these are not the actions of a caring employer, and called on the resort to rescind the letter. He says the government will take what steps are necessary to protect Bahamian workers.
Actually, very disgraceful for a company to come to the Bahamas. They meet unions as a part of the culture of the Bahamas. They know it's a part of our constitution. It's a part of the right of every individual to be a member of a trade union of their choice. We are now considering our options. I speak to the minimum wage bill on Wednesday, and we will be discussing our options between now and then, and whatever we have to do to make sure that the rights of employees and workers of this country is protected, we will do so.
Also tonight, officials from the Water and Sewage Corporation are still hard at work trying to restore service to more than 30% of its customers in New Providence who either experience low pressure or no water at all today. The areas include Palmdale, Bain and Grantstown, Big Pond, Fort Fincastle, and St. Albans Drive. C.S. Radley tonight tells us about the fixes for those with water woes.
Work crews discovered late Monday afternoon a hole at the bottom of a critical water main located on Nassau Street just south of West Bay Street. This resulted in just over 30% of WSC customers in New Providence either with low pressure or no water at all. Since then, officials have been working around the clock to correct the issue. Supervisor at WSC, Trevor Roberts, confirmed to our news team late Tuesday afternoon that this is one of the largest pipes that WSC has in the ground.
We are trying to make some necessary repairs to one of our transmission main, the 24-inch, the line that brings water from the hydro tower to areas like West Bay Street, Shirley Street, downtown, and the surrounding Palmdale and surrounding areas.
Roberts also revealed that anywhere from 10 to 15 people are on the site at any given time. One of the many areas that have been impacted by the situation is vendors and patrons of Arawak Key. Operations Manager Kevin Archer said the problem started around 3 yesterday afternoon. Still, it seems that for many of those vendors operating out of Arawak Key, it was business as usual.
And we've been experiencing some pressure coming and going, and then about around 4 o'clock the water stopped coming in. We tried to work with persons as much as we can, and I think about 4:30 we had to shut it down because then all of the reserve water was used. I've seen a lot of water between Chelsea's and Aquapure and some of the other water companies. A lot of them been moving through the area to the back area. So it means that possibly a lot of them have been purchasing water from the water companies, etc. That's probably how they're operating at this present time.
As a result, the 2 bathrooms are currently unusable, but Archer is asking for both vendors and patrons to be patient with them until the problem is resolved. While the situation is extremely unfortunate, Roberts expressed confidence that the matter will be resolved soon and is again apologizing for any inconvenience caused.
We just want the customers to know that we've already done some initial transferring of water They have done some diversion, so there should be somewhat. You might not see the pressure that you normally get, but we are giving the customers some relief at this time until we get this major problem solved, and then they'll have adequate pressure or the normal pressure.
C.S. Scatterly, ZNS Network News.
Well, we're about halfway through the hurricane season, and so far it's been extremely quiet with no tropical cyclone development to report, and that's good news. Well, tonight in this special report, taking a look at the Bahamas tropical cyclone trends from 1870 to now, Carla Palmer tells us why weather conditions may continue to remain in our favor, not just this season, but for years to come.
Each year, June 1st begins the hurricane season, and to date for 2015, there's been no tropical cyclones affecting the Bahamas. Deputy Director at NASA's Meteorological Department, Basil Dean, tells us why.
We are in an El Nino period, which tend to suppress the tropical cyclone development. In addition to that, we have been experiencing some rather strong upper-level westerlies, which is another component that does not favor tropical cyclone development. And of course there's the sea surface temperatures, which are warm enough, but if of course you have those strong upper level winds which tend to shear off the top, you're not going to have much depth in terms of development, which is very necessary for the development of tropical cyclone.
In fact, the last time the Bahamas experienced a hurricane was 3 years ago in 2012, when Hurricane Sandy wreaked havoc on islands in the southeastern Bahamas, causing serious structural damage. For New Providence, the time frame was even longer.
Michelle would have been the last hurricane to almost directly affect New Providence. That was in 2001.
Showcasing a weather pattern of the Bahamas from 1870 to 2014 to support his analysis, Dean confirms the predictions of a below-average season for many more years to come.
We have seen here 10, 20, about 30-year upward trend, and then it went into a 20-year downward trend, and then we saw a 40-year upward trend, followed by a 40-year downward trend, and hence thereafter we've had a 20-year upward trend, and so far we've been in a downward trend for the last 10. This would be the second decade, which would be 20 years. So we're at that point where we can eventually start to see an increase, but we're still on that downward slope. So it clearly shows that hurricane activity has really decreased over the Bahamas within the last 60 to 80 years. And should that continue, it would suggest that the global warming, which we all know will have some effect on climatic changes, more suggests that the climatic change for the Bahamas would tend to be one of less tropical cyclone condition if we were to accept the statistical data.
Although we are on a downward trend in terms of hurricanes here, we should always remain vigilant. Remember in 2001 with Hurricane Michelle and 2005 with Hurricane Wilma? Both of those storms were away from the Bahamas when they turned around and came here. A word to the wise should be sufficient. Carla Palmer, ZNS Network News.
In other news, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force has a new patrol craft. P.2 was welcomed on Friday at the Coral Harbor Base. It's the fifth of 9 vessels to arrive into the fleet of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, and is also the first of 4 Coastal Patrol class vessels that have been procured as a part of the Sandy Bottom project. This modern design patrol vessel is outfitted with all the necessary equipment for vessels of its class to operate efficiently and effectively on their tour of duty. The ship is 100 feet in length with a range of 6,000 nautical miles and has a total complement of 13 crew members. It will be commanded by Senior Lieutenant Bertram Bowleg, a 26-year veteran of the force. The acquisition of the vessel will allow this class of vessel to access coastal waters throughout the Bahamas.
This portion of the news was brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
This is your Royal Fidelity Business News. I'm C.S. Scatterly. Activity in the country's real estate sector is reportedly down in comparison to last year. One of the adjustments the sector has had to make this year has been the implementation of value-added tax. President of the Bahamas Real Estate Association, Carla Sweeting, believes with any change brings with it a level of slowness. In other business news, as of today, the Department of Inland Revenue's new online application for business license is now live. The online tax administration system will provide businesses with a simple, user-friendly online application and payment system. And in international news, Greek bank shares have fallen sharply for a second day in Athens, but non-financial firms have fared better. The Athens General Index closed down about 1.2%. The share index had dropped 16% on the first day of trading after a 5-week shutdown. Major banks were close to the maximum 30% declines they are allowed in one day, a limit that was hit on Monday. Banks account for about a fifth of the Athens Index. This has been your Royal Fidelity Business News. I'm C.S. Scatterly.
Memorial services in recognition of two Bahamian icons who have recently passed are being planned. The Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, the Honorable Danny Johnson, announced today that his ministry will be spearheading memorial services for both the late Franklin Count Bernardino Ellis and Brian Sabaldi Gibson. Both men passed away recently following very long illnesses.
Now, Minister Johnson says they will honor the life and legacy of these two cultural giants ahead of their funeral services this coming weekend. Minister Johnson announced the memorial service for Ellis, described as a veteran musical ambassador, for tomorrow, and August 5th, that is, at the National Center for the Performing Arts at 7 p.m. and on Friday at 7 p.m. in Roslyn Square. A service is scheduled for Junkanoo icon Mr. Brian Gibson.
In order to capture their life and legacy, we've chosen to assist in putting on fitting memorials so that other people could come out and give expression to their life work beyond the funeral setting, but in the real life setting where we can celebrate these two giants of men in the world of culture. So we just want people to know when this is happening. As we've shared earlier, we start Wednesday with a tribute to the legendary Count Bernardino, Friday with a tribute to Sabaldi, and then Saturday and Sunday are those funerals. We ask people to come out and show your respect to the family, but also celebrate what they have meant to us as a country and as a people.
Daughter of Count Bernardino, Nita Ellis, expressed thanks to Minister Johnson and his team, as well as the public, for the show of support.
Now, he also announced that the family has planned an open mic memorial for this coming Thursday, that is, at 7 p.m. at the Lutheran Church of Nassau on JFK Drive. Nita Ellis talked about the last time she spoke with her father.
I've been missing for 2 weeks, and excuse me, on my way to the airport. He knew I was going when I normally take 2 months off a year to spend some time with my mother in Seattle, and it was her birthday, and we went to Alaska, etc. And you know, I was gonna stop by, and he let me know that he wasn't gonna be there when he got back. He told me, and he told me to enjoy my vacation. I mean, it was hard, but I tried my best, and so I kind of was. But we had a good time the last 11 months. That was the most difficult time of my life because I could never picture him just laying.
If you think Exuma is pretty, you should see the Keys. Well, it's one of the latest stops on the BTC Island connection and quite the underwater adventure, as I found. Children are fearless. I am not, especially when sharks are involved.
Never mind.
My attempt to pet one of them did not go as planned. The feeding went a little smoother and, as always, created quite the spectacle.
So you touched the shark? I haven't touched it yet.
Yes, ma'am, I did. It did feel like sandpaper.
What about you? Did you touch the shark? You want to touch the shark? Yeah? You're not scared? No? Okay, we gotta get you to touch the shark, okay?
It's one of the big features of the Staniel Key Yacht Club, David Hawker's pride and joy.
When the fish cleaning is going on, there'll be a dozen or more circling.
Communicating is key in this world all to itself, and Hawker is happy that his guests, even the unlucky sports fishermen, can catch a signal with no problem.
Having infrastructure items like communications, of course, is vital to not only for our guests but to run a business. So we rely on fast internet, and all of our booking systems are web-based. So if the internet goes down, we're out of business. And many of our guests couldn't visit unless they had that connection to their jobs or to their family back home. So it's made that possible, yeah.
And the head of this big happy family is a testament to that.
But do you find the need to use it often? Stay in touch at home or?
Oh yeah, no, you gotta have the Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my business doesn't stop just because I'm playing.
Yeah.
So the next time you want to get away from it all and push the envelope, the Staniel Key Yacht Club and the Sharks will be waiting.
I don't know, I'm
Near
not
the
sure
dorsal.
insurance covers this.
Keishla Adderley for the BTC Island Connection.